Yo, what's going on, everybody? Got another episode of Chill Lion here today, and we're gonna talk about a show that I'm like really excited to talk to you guys about because it's kind of low key, and I'm not sure really how many people know about it, but yeah, it's something I'm hyped about. But before I get into it, I gotta shout out Nikola Jokic for the Denver Nuggets, even though they got swept by the Suns and they're out of the playoffs. He's still one of my favorite players, and he had won MVP last week. And it's the third year in a row that an international player actually won the award. So it's kind of a big deal. So I thought it was a good moment, being that he's an international player, to talk to you guys about an international show that I just really fuck with. And that is Mr. In Between out of Australia. So the show starring Scott Ryan, and he's not only the lead actor, but he's also the writer of the show as well. And that's because it was the whole idea. This whole thing was inspired by an independent film that Scott directed and wrote back in 2005, and it was called The Magician. And basically, what it was about is just this character named Ray Shoesmith or something like that. Yeah, Ray Shoesmith, and basically he's just a professional criminal, mainly hitman, but he's a criminal, and he finds out that his neighbor does documentaries, so he convinces his neighbor to do a documentary on him and just like the crime world. And it's just like really funny because even though he's like a criminal and he does these terrible things, he's also a pretty likable guy, and he actually is a lot more caring than one might think a criminal or killer is. So, The Magician was personally a film that I didn't watch. Um, but, doing some research on Mr. In Between, I thought it was kind of cool knowing that even though it was a small independent film that, was nominated for awards, but still it wasn't really known to the masses, that it became this hit show on FX called Mr. In Between. So basically, Ray, he's the character from that film, The Magician. He's the main character of Mr. In Between, and like I said, he's a professional criminal. So this one kind of just Mr. In Between dives more into just his life and all the things he does for work and stuff like that. But then you also see his dynamic between like his daughter and he has his best friend, and it's a really really fire show. I'm hyped to talk about it, and I'm really trying to put you guys on because I'm a fan of the show. I tune in every week when it premieres, and I want it to keep going. I think it is like like there's a lot of quality there, so I figure maybe try to recommend it to some of you guys. Let's try to grow the viewership together, so we could get a couple more seasons. But so let's get into the verdict before I get into everything I like about the show and why I think you guys should check it out. FX is killing it right now. I'm giving this a 9 out of 10. This is FX's second show that I'm giving a 9 out of 10. And there's just so much to unwind. So like, where do I even start? So the first place I like to start is the show is like absolutely hilarious. Like it is really really funny, and what I like about the humor, it's just one, it's like they're out of Australia, so they just have a completely different lifestyle and culture in comparison to the USA. But their humor is just like, how do I say this? Like, there's a lot of comedies that come out here in the States and stuff like that, and it just feels so corporate. Like, the studios just got some top of the line actors or some top of the line comedians, and they just give us like these. It's like the effort is just not fully there. It's just like just bullshit comedy. But that's not what you get with the humor on this show. It's really organic, and it's a lot of natural, just funny situations, just funny moments where it's not always just a setup and joke. It's literally like you are bawling and dying hysterically because of just what the hell is going on in the scene and just how crazy some of these characters are. So The humor is just such a big plus for me. And it's funny because like the show is kind of labeled as a crime drama, and don't get me wrong, it definitely has some really like great dramatic moments. It has a lot of dark moments too. But a good half of the show is pretty funny. I don't think there's one episode that you watch where you're not at least laughing like once or twice. So I would think that the show is half comedy as well. It's really freaking funny, and that was one thing that drew me in. Another thing that's really strong about this show is just the pacing. You know, the show has really a roughly a rough time a runtime of anywhere between like episodes could be like anywhere between like 21 minutes and 27 minutes or 28 minutes, like pretty much between 20 minutes to half an hour. That's roughly going to be the episode you're length of the episode you're watching, especially if you're like watching it on Hulu where you could stream it and like just binge it episode after episode. But the pacing's really good because even though it has such a short runtime, a lot happens every episode. Like, they do not waste any time. And what's good about the pacing that makes it so strong is there's situations in shows and movies where they'll throw a lot your way and a lot's happening, but it's just the execution isn't there. So it's just sometimes things could just feel like, the studios or directors doing too much, or sometimes it just like just all over the place. Like it's just a mess. You could either be confused or you could just be like, oh, come on, we don't need that, this and that. But with Mr. In Between, even though they're short episodes, yeah, a lot happens, but it's the way it's executed is like super like effortless, and it's just really clean. So it's just like when you're watching the episodes kind of fly by because you're like you get into it, but then afterwards you stop and think for a second. You're like, wow, like they squeezed a lot in, or they're really, they're setting some stuff up here. Like, so pacing is a really strong part of the show. The acting is good too. Like I said, I really like love the Australian culture in general. Like, it's a place that like I just want to visit so bad. And like, someone who has like arachnophobia, you might think I'm crazy for it, but I'm willing to like deal with the crazy spiders or like whatever deadly wildlife is out there, just to visit. The cities look amazing, the people are mad fucking chill, and yeah, that's one thing I really like about the show, because it's just like it's kind of like a breath of fresh air. It's not the same old. um and I don't know, I really appreciate watching shit from other countries. That's just me. So yeah, good acting. I mentioned that the show has some dark moments, and it really does, because you gotta understand, Ray's just a character that like he'll literally do almost anything for money. He's a professional criminal, so he'll clean up murders. If you need like to get a hit, like you need him to kill somebody, he's a hitman too. And he's just the overall fixer for like criminals. And in that line of business, like it's a dark world, so like even though this show's a comedy, and it has like its lighthearted moments, it definitely, you don't escape the darkness either. And there's plenty of like times throughout well, they're in the third season now, but there's plenty of times throughout the show where you're just like, it'll take you to that place briefly. And yeah, it's really good shit, very violent. This kind of goes along with pacing, but I think the setups are really good with the show. Um, yeah, it kind of has to do with pacing, but it's really more about writing and just storytelling. The show is like on the money with the storytelling, and there's things that happen, and big or small, things constantly come back up. So there could be like a small little joke or something in one episode, and then a few episodes down the line, or like maybe in another season, they reference a lot of stuff. And that just, especially when you're binging something and stuff's fresh in your mind, I don't know, it works. So I think the setup's really good. Setups with their jokes are good too, like I mentioned, with the humor, it's just really organic. One thing that I think's another strong part of the show is just his overall dynamic with his daughter. It's like he has like this relationship with her where he's a really good dad, and since he works in like such a dark world, like you could tell he tries to hide like that part of him from her, but she's like really observant as a child. And now in season 3 she's like 12, so she's going to be entering those teenage years. She's very observant. She asks a lot of questions, and there's plenty of moments where like Ray is just like, his style and approach to things is like he likes to be honest with his kids, and like he'll tell her some, like she'll ask about something and he'll not always give her the kid answer. Sometimes he'll like say it in like he's talking to a child way, but he'll be honest with what the situation is or what this and that is. And it's just, it's really funny, the dynamic between the two. It really works. And as for dislikes, there's not really much I dislike about the show, and I'm advocating for it pretty hard right now. But the only thing I would dislike is the runtime. For me, like, even though so much happens and they give us so much every episode, it's just my personal preference. I'd rather have an hour long show, because with a show like this, like, you really could just go a lot of places. And even though the pacing, character development, and everything's on the money, sometimes I just be like, damn, like after I watch an episode, like, damn, I wish this was another 25 minutes long or this and that. So, if it was like an hour, I think I would prefer it that way. But not every show's like that, and considering its runtime, like I said, it's really well executed. So there's not too much that I dislike about the show. So yeah, this is a pretty quick episode. I'm not gonna dive too deep into Mr. In Between. One thing I will say, if you never watched the show before, it's honestly like the perfect time to start watching it. It's in season 3 right now. The show came out back in 2018. So first season came out 2018. Second season came out 2019. They took off a year in 2020 because obviously COVID and shit. But 2021, season 3, it started a couple weeks ago. I think we're about like 3 or 4 episodes in, and it comes on Tuesday nights, 10 o'clock on FX. If you don't really watch TV at that time, you can catch it on Hulu the very next day, that Wednesday. Hulu already has the new episode. So yeah, season 3 just started. If you're just gonna get into the show, it's a perfect time to do so, because season 3 hasn't finished yet. I think it's running until about July 19th, or somewhere in the middle of July. It's gonna be running until there's about 9 episodes. So I guess before I get into just like ending the episode, because this is like a quick hitter type episode, I'm not gonna make it too long. I do want to go into just some brief spoilers. So spoilers, this is mainly for season 3 so far, the current season. Um Here's your warning: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, motherfuckers. All right, so season 3 of Mr. In Between, if you got to this part of the video, you're clearly already a fan of the show, and you already know why I like it so much, and probably agree with most of what I'm saying right now. This is a fucking awesome show. Or you possibly came back and want to hear my thoughts now that you're up to date with the episodes. Basically, like, we're still a few episodes in, and maybe I'll post another reaction video to the end of the season. But this has been a pretty interesting season of the show so far. And there's a couple things I really liked about it that I want to kind of just briefly mention. One is we're seeing another side to Ray. I really feel like he's maturing even more as just like a man and as a father. And you could tell that he is slowly just not happy with what he's doing. Like, yeah, the money's great, and being a criminal is in a way kind of all he knew or knows. But you could tell, you could just feel the unhappiness with him. He doesn't want to always hurt people. If someone cleans up a body, like in, I think it was the third or fourth episode, his one of his new like freelance bosses or whatever calls him up saying he has a job and he has to go to some rich kid's house where there's just this unconscious young woman, and it looks like she probably overdosed or something, but just like their overall like vibe towards her, like if she's just like a piece of meat or something, or you could tell he's just not about women and children, and even just cleaning up the body. They were just like, oh yeah, just feed her to the pigs, like take her to his farm and just feed her to the pigs. And Ray didn't want to do that. Ray actually ended up giving her like a proper burial and stuff. So those are just the sides that people love Ray, because even though he's a dark character, there's some really good things about him and really relatable things about him. And that was just one moment where you could just tell like he has a heart, like he's a father himself, and he needs to get rid of this body of this young woman, like probably like either in college or her early 20s. Now, I mentioned earlier in the video, this show does a really good job of like things that happen always come back up, whether it's a character or a joke or a reference to something, they come back up. So one thing I'm curious about, he buries this girl while the boss clearly told him to feed her body to the pig farm or whatever. Is this gonna come back up? Does her body come up at some point? Does maybe the boss find it, like if he's burying it like not too far outside the farm, will it come back to bite him? I don't know. That was a question that came to mind. A few other things about this season that's pretty interesting. One, his brief time in prison, I really really liked. He meets his jail mate or jail cellmate or whatever, roommate, whatever you want to call it. Is like this guy. He's like very mysterious in a way, but he's like this dorky dude. You could tell like he couldn't really, well, he looks like he couldn't hurt a fly, but you really don't know too much about his backstory or why he's in jail. But his character was just so interesting. He started teaching Ray about the meditation, and he got into some stuff with some other prisoners, and Ray tried giving him the advice of like, hey, stick up for yourself, attack the guy or something when you get the chance. But him not being that type of person doesn't, and that prisoner ends up attacking him in the bathroom and just ends up just stomping his face in like viciously. And I don't know, he's a character that was just very interesting, even though he's small. He's another one. I just feel like we didn't learn enough about him, and I wonder if he gets out at any point, if he and Ray's paths cross again. I think that was just very interesting. And overall, another big theme to this season, now that his daughter is older, because in the earlier seasons she's a little younger, so she's like super cute and stuff like that. Now she's 12, and although she still has that cute effect, she's entering those teenage years, so she's entering those smart ass years. And being that I already told you that she's a very observant character, she asks a lot of questions and she wants to know as much as possible about her dad, because it seems to be pretty clear that she's aware that he's a criminal. Their dynamic this season is really really funny, and it's gonna be really funny to continue seeing how that develops, because like I said, season 3 is only a couple episodes in, but she has a boyfriend. He was obviously hilarious, like super laid back, and Ray's kind of grilling him a little bit when he first meets him, and kind of just like, and this kid just like doesn't care. He's like, oh, same shit, just chilling, like I don't know. He was really funny. I hope we get more of the boyfriend. And then just the daughter overall, like she barely talks about certain things. She wants her space a lot at times. The last episode, she finds Ray's gun in like this hidden compartment in his bed. Accidentally sets it off in the house, puts one right through his wall. He gets home and she tries to put the gun back and tries to play it all slick, but a criminal like that, like he's just so experienced. The minute he walked into the house, he already smelled the gunpowder, so he's like, somebody shot a gun in here, and he just knew it was her automatically. She was trying to play it off. So yeah, their dynamic was just been such a strong point this season. I'm just really curious to see how it continues. But yeah, last thing about this season before I cut the episode off is Ray's new, I guess, boss. this rich guy. We still don't know too much about him. You know he's loaded, has like a yacht and stuff. This guy, I just get the worst vibes from him. I don't know what it is. He comes off like super comical, like just some rich prick or whatever, but I feel like this guy might be involved in some really dark shit, and like something just tells me that like him and Ray are just gonna end up clashing. And there's just been too many like weird things. One, obviously, the thing I mentioned already, like giving Ray a job to get rid of this chick body. And it's funny because when Ray first like meets him on their boat, because Ray's first job for the guy was a simple prison job. It was when Ray was in jail for that brief episode or two. So he gets the job like, hey, I need you to give this guy a message, and in other terms, beat the shit out of him or fuck him up in some type of way. And Ray takes a hot cup of water, splashes it right in his face, and it's like a boiling hot cup of water. So Ray got him good. But then he asked Ray like, so you do anything for money or something along the lines of that, and Ray's just like, yeah, pretty much. And he, one thing I was talking to my brother about, he pointed out that could have been a mistake on Ray's part. He should have right there on the table just like, hey, I don't want anything to do with like women or children or anything like that, or just like lay down like shit that he doesn't want to do. But the fact that he's just like, I'll do anything for money or whatever, like that might be something that really creates a rift between him and this new boss, because this guy, like, I just get really dark energy from him. And yeah, it's hard to see, like, in my mind, it's hard to think that Ray's gonna willingly continue working for a dude like that. And when you try to get out the business of working for a dude like that, it doesn't always end pretty. So the guy already asked Ray if he wanted to be a part of a crew. Ray is a solo dolo kind of dude. He has his philosophies, he has his style of doing things. So, he tells him like, hey, I'm more of a freelance kind of worker when it comes to like these crime stuff. But the fact that this guy is trying to get a crew going along, if Ray does clash with him at any point, he might be having to deal with a lot of bullshit and a lot of bodies. And it's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out. But that's it. Mr. In Between, definitely check it out if you haven't. But obviously, if you just watch this part of the video, you're already in the spoilers, so I'm already talking about shit. But yeah, appreciate you guys continuing watching this. I'm in this for the long run. I'm not the best with like posting as soon as possible, but definitely gonna start grinding because I've just been watching so much shit lately. Yeah, it's just a lot. So I saw The Conjuring last week because it came out. So next episode's gonna probably be on that. We got Handmaid's Tale ending this week. I've been wanting to talk about that for a while, but I wanted to wait until the season came to a conclusion. So we got the last episode dropping Wednesday, and there's a couple other shows that I've watched in like the last couple weeks. City on the Hill, Mayor of Easttown, that I haven't forgot about, that I'm gonna be giving thoughts on. So I'm excited for a lot of the shit that's gonna be coming out. We just gotta see how everything plays out, and when I get around to doing it. It's a one-man band right here, so, but I'm gonna get them out. So yeah, appreciate you guys. One love. Take care. Peace.